Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would sit down and do a video for you guys and gals. Drink a little bit of my Fairlife, real milk from a real cow, high quality protein. All right, let's talk about this. This is a thing that comes up, and it doesn't matter sometimes whether it's aspartame or the cold baths or whatever. Cold baths for recovery from training and exercise. It seems like when people come in and you discuss these things and they want to argue about the science, they haven't even looked at any of it. And I mean, they haven't even looked at the abstracts, they haven't looked at the conclusions, anything. And it's always fascinating to me. So like when I brought up the ice baths, and I've said, look guys, ice baths are a scam. And I've had people on my different social media, because obviously this is, I post in more than one place. Have pretty good sized audiences on a couple different platforms. People say, well, but this Huberman guy or whatever, and I don't even know who that is, and Joe Rogan or whatever, they wouldn't endorse it if the science wasn't good. And it's like, well, yeah, they would. And it's like, and that's irrelevant, because I would tell people, have you looked at the studies? I mean, even if you didn't read the data, that's cool. People don't have time to read data. Did you look at the findings in general? And ice baths is a perfect example. That's a perfect example. And I would ask to a lot of people who are listening, what do you think the researchers have said, who've done the reviews, who've looked at multiple studies and done a review of what's out there? Does anyone think that they actually think it helps with exercise recovery? Because they don't. Okay, and people need to understand, they don't say when they're reviewing science, they don't say, this is bullshit, right? That is not how a conclusion is written. They don't say, this is bullshit. That's not what they write. They might as well have for the ice baths. But what they even said on that one, it's a perfect example of them that said, look, the only studies, the studies that show benefits, because we have some studies that show benefits and some studies that show no benefits. Okay, right? Because that's usually what happens with multiple studies. They have said the studies that show benefits were very low quality. Okay, we need more research. The slightly higher quality studies don't show benefits. All right. Now, a lot of people are listening, and if you're not understanding what's going on with that, you're saying, oh, so they're still debating it. They don't know. No, what that means is at this time, there's no evidence that it works. That the indications would be that it probably doesn't. Or if it is, it's too small of an amount to measure. Why? Because there's probably some bias in the lower quality studies somewhere. Because the low quality studies are the ones that say, oh, there seems to be some small possible benefits of recovery, and then the more well done, sophisticated studies are like, yeah, we didn't find anything. Okay. People understanding how that works. Okay, so if something is real and something has a real effect, such as I could drop this and we could determine the rate at which it falls. Okay. That's something tangible. You can see it. It's measurable. So oftentimes with something like this, if there's a benefit, there's going to be something tangible that will be consistently show up. Okay, do people understand? It'll show up pretty consistently. Right? And if you start having studies where it doesn't show up, we better figure out why. And when you start having studies to where we show a null hypothesis, meaning, yeah, our theory didn't pan out, doesn't seem to work, and they're the better done studies, that's usually probably your answer. Not saying it was certain, and that's what I'm saying, oh, we need more studies, but that's usually the case. So essentially, when you're talking about exercise recovery and adaptation and all that stuff, from the ice baths, for example, the evidence and the researchers are essentially saying, yeah, it doesn't seem to be beneficial. Okay. And other people chime in, well, it seems to do this, it boosts testosterone. No, it doesn't. And even if it did, why would you think that there's a benefit to your training? We've got plenty of data showing transient fluctuations in testosterone don't benefit your training anyways. But it doesn't seem to. It improves mental discipline. Well, do you really think that that's a good use of your resources? There are a lot of ways you can increase mental discipline, but that's not a measurable thing. There are also potential negatives that are coming with increasing that discipline. I would rather apply those resources towards something that's going to help my progress. But people, they don't look at it. Or they'll read a headline and say, oh, this is what the science is. I just saw a thing come through my feed on this. It triggered, I saw it in one of the little Facebook groups I'm in. Someone said, well, I did these in college, but I don't think the average person benefit the D1. I really don't even believe what the science is saying on it. I don't think there's much real benefit. But I'm sitting here looking at it saying, what's he talking about? The science isn't showing a real benefit. But that's a perfect example. That person is saying that, but they're talking about it, but they don't even know what it says. They didn't look at it. Science isn't showing a benefit. Just like when we talked about the aspartame thing, that's another example. FDA's rejected the carcinogen hypothesis as lack of evidence. The WHO's position on it, everyone's saying, oh, they're classifying it as a carcinogen, but that's not how they classified it. Okay. That's not how they classified it. They classified it as, we suspect that at high enough doses, it is probably a carcinogen in humans, but we haven't been able to test doses that high. Okay. In short, we think in extreme cases it might occur. There's a good chance it will. But we can't actually study because it's too high, and we can't just consistently do that. We haven't been able to run these studies to actually show it to actually happen. So again, we come over to, does that mean that the WHO is then saying that it's going to give you cancer? No, they're saying in high enough doses, hypothetical, high doses for a long enough period of time, which you're not going to really consume, we think it probably would, but we can't really test it in people. Therefore, because it's such an extreme amount, it's also probably not happening in the real world anyways. Okay? So again, understand what you're looking at with these things. It's a good idea. It's useful. Don't just read headlines. Go look into it. All right, look into these things a little bit. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. It's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.